I'm back, asking the question, who am I? Who am I? Incessantly, repeatedly. Because there are so many answers to that question, and it's going to take a long, long time for us to figure it all out, work it all out. You can't just rest in an assumption about who you are, because it's driving the inner machinery of your consciousness at all times. And so to not know how important of a part this question plays in your whole makeup would be something of an error, I think. In any case, we're back. Who Am I is the show. We asked the question for practical reasons, and we're gonna offer up some answers. I'm not giving answers. I'm offering up some answers, many of which I received from others, and just with my own ability to put things together, took their information, decided that I was going to believe it, and then clicked it into my operating system, and lo and behold, it's good information. It's the law of attraction information. When I met it in 2020, it was like the action component, and it took the picture that I had been creating for all of my life in my consciousness of what I thought the world was and what it was doing, and it literally put it into motion. It was like, oh, that's what's making it run. Oh, that which is like unto itself is drawn. We're resonating with things that are agreeing with the thoughts we've already got going on in our own minds. We resonate with those and we're attracted to them. And so all the angry people, all the aggrieved people, all of the people who think, whatever, they're collecting in a group. Well, there's all kinds of things going on. But we're not going to get sidetracked. Not too early, anyway. We might devolve into politics at some point. But we're not going to bring it up just yet because we want to get straight the setup, the backstory, the plot of the movie, and then we can each one of us figure out where in the movie and on the grid you are. And when you have a better sense of the laws of the universe, you start understanding better how to interact and interrelate with it. And when we do that individually, we make our lives better. When more and more of us do this individually, collectively, we start having better and better lives. We start moving with one another more efficiently. We start syncing up and harmonizing with one another in a symphony of abundance, rather than the cacophony of lack that we have been creating for ourselves, which I believe is completely avoidable. Well, that's not exactly the right words for it, because it wasn't avoidable. The reason that we are where we are is the state of our knowing who we are. We could have avoided the trap of a century of overuse of fossil fuels had we only known who we were back in the day. What am I talking about? If you're new to the show, and that means you're almost everybody, I have one person out there. I bet it's the same person. They keep thumbs upping, and they keep listening, and whoever you are keeping me going. Now, to be fair, I am not actually trying to be seen on the internet. I am just doing my thing and getting better and better at it, and we'll see, what it comes of it someday. I know that something is happening. I am following the lead, the guidance of my inner being as I do this, and so I think it's going to be really fascinating to see what she's coming up with. I'm just letting her do it. It makes sense to me what she impulses me to do. I'm sure she's the one who has encouraged me to come into this space and start these recordings in the first place. I started back in November. I started posting in January. And with the exception of 18, I've posted over 100 shows, although 18 of them are not public facing. So you all out there don't have access to 100 of them yet. And I would open those back up if I wasn't afraid that they would get some sort of forward recognition, some sort of search engine optimization factor, or worse yet, be listed like right now instead of listed back when I posted them. I have to ask somebody what's going to happen before I try to do that. Actually, I could do one and then see what happens. Doesn't matter. I digress. So who am I, and what's all this big deal about fossil fuels and lack and abundance and the paradigm that we are in, and the divine matrix, my own... I remember I was saying that I'm actually almost hiding. I'm going to get really good at this, and it actually is going to have the potential to upset the apple cart. As far as if people really listen to me and understand what I'm saying, they will understand that this is the way to save ourselves. This is the way to not go extinct and to have everybody be happy too. I'm not putting down a document of the law. And if I could get everyone in the planet to follow this law, then we will be okay. It's nothing like that. It's a simple understanding of the reality that actually surrounds us and our place in it, and how that would go a very, 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 very long way to help ameliorate every single brand of suffering that we find on planet Earth today. And you know what? It is hard being a cell in the body of life, and we should be very, very... We should be way more soft, easy, kind, soothing, sympathetic, compassionate with one another, while at the same time understanding that we are all creating our own reality, so you don't need to go overboard. And the best thing about this is it does not help the world or you or anybody or anything for you to actually accomplish negative emotion that you never get out of, staring at the woes of the world. Then you're forced to act under the auspices of negative emotion as you go to fix whatever. And I promise you that you're not getting the impulses as clear as you would about what to actually do to fix this world. I'm air quoting the word fix in my I'm doing it in the air, actually. Air quoting. Fix the world. The world doesn't need fixing. The world needs understanding. The world needs comprehension. The world needs awareness. The world needs consciousness. The world needs you to get over yourself just a little bit, and get a glimpse of how magnificent and capable and fantastic and blessed and supported you and the universe. I mean, it's a system that's breathtaking. But if you get crosswise, this is the key. If you get into alignment with it, it is the most beneficent, cooperative, blessed, beautiful thing that you can imagine. And I'm just talking about how you feel about everything as you look at it. All begins to feel so much nicer. You're like, oh my gosh, what a magnificent world we live in. And then when you turn and see, suffering, you go, oh, But then your attention goes back to, so first of all, know that it is all attraction. And so you cannot assert the well-being that you think you want to insert everywhere where you look that you see pain and suffering. That's not exactly... So I used to be moved, quite moved, in negative ways, actually. Mostly by when I see the plight of animals. So when wildlife, things come out and show me you know what? I need to be careful here. I need to be careful here. As you direct your focus around, you will find that if you start to look at negative things, you can feel it within yourself. You start to feel the negative emotions. You feel anger. You feel sad. You feel certain other kinds of energies might peter out. You can't stay on the negative too long. The fact is the world has problems. It really does. It has problems and it has suffering. The interesting thing, though, is the answer is absolutely to keep open your ability to feel compassion. But know that everyone is on their own trajectory. That in a way you can't affect except in one way. You have one way that you can powerfully affect the world around you, I believe. Now, I'm working on it. It's in process. The corn is in the ground, if you will. If you're an Abraham listener, that's an expression that means it takes, once you plant the corn, once you plant the seed and set the intention in motion, it does take a minute for it to gather momentum and get a foothold. I'm not, things are going to happen for me at some point. I'm absolutely convinced, because I'm getting really, really good at talking about something that's really important. The current paradigm that we're living in. Actually, we're going to talk about it in really abstract and general ways. It's actually my gift, my ability to abstract and generalize the world in almost a mathematic way. And my ability to add things into my operating system, my ability to line my physical mind's operating system with the kinds of thoughts that my inner being is thinking about. It's actually something that I've been working on my whole life, and I'm good at doing it. Now, from the inside, it looks to me like all of us could be good at doing this. There's nothing in my equipment that tells me that my equipment is any different than anybody else. It's just the way I used it as I was living my life. For one thing, when I was, I think I was 14 years old, when I consciously, without rancor or anything else, it was just something I did, I removed the template of my religious background from my consciousness. I decided not to anymore believe my religious upbringing. I wasn't going to believe what they were saying anymore. And Esther's right. I used to take umbrage with her statement of a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. Now, actually, I would take umbrage with her word just. It's not just a thought you keep thinking. However, in the belief structure of your internal operating system, your iOS, a belief is something that you put into your operating system that is there all the time. This is what I believe is so about reality, and so this one stays. This one is a lens through which I interpret everything else that comes through it. And at 14 years old, I removed the one from my ground, from my mother religion. And it was scary that night. Oh, I had all kinds of fears of the devil, and what if they're right? What if it's true? What's going to happen to me? It's so scary. But then that went away, actually, and plagued me no more. And the thing is I was still able to see my religion. And in the years that have followed, as my mind has circled back around to certain things. Now, my advice to all people is from the beginning, and if you didn't do it from the beginning, you can go back in and you can clean house. You can sort out what's going on in your own mind at any time. You could, if you could detach yourself from what you think is your connection to the outside physical world and reforge a new one, you could do that. But don't ever believe anything that doesn't make sense to you. And then if it does make sense, so don't believe it because somebody told it to you. This is what my religion was. And some of it made sense, but some of it didn't make much sense. And I didn't want to swallow it whole anymore. And so I took the whole lens off and decided that from there forward, I was only going to believe what made sense to me. But I'm not a skeptic. I'm not one of those people who, let's see, I will let that in if so I only believe things if they make sense. But there's a place where everything goes, whether I believe it or not, or whether it makes sense or not. I had this other place, I called it the place where everything goes, or the room where everything goes. You don't know, it's like, so as I would sit in church and watch people bear their testimony, and I could feel how sincere they were, I knew that they believed it. And so I listened to what they said, and I wasn't going to take what they said right into my own self and believe it just because they believe it. But the fact that they believed it made it more important. But in any case, I didn't know what to do with that. It doesn't matter. You don't know what to do with it. Here it goes in that place where everything goes. You don't subtract anything. You can't ever subtract anything. So you add everything in, but it doesn't have to be believed to be added in. It's just, anyway, believe the stuff that makes sense to you and only the stuff that makes sense to you, but take everything in. And what will start happening is, what happened to me is, in this room where everything was, that I did one, I felt certain things about some things, and I knew certain things about other things, and it seemed to be a bit of a chaotic mix. When the law of attraction came into my consciousness, when I met it, 2020, early 2020. 2019, we had been studying A Course in Miracles. My daughter and I had even been attending a weekly study group at the local community center. We'd been doing that for a few months. And then COVID shut us all down. I bought the whole book, The Law of Attraction by Esther Hicks, and then met all the videos. And it used to be you could find on YouTube 10-hour full seminars. People had recorded, I'm sure it was people, not Esther. People had recorded the whole entire seminar and then would put the whole thing up. And I listened to, I don't know how many seminars of hers. And then it all got chopped up in these 14, 15-minute bites. And, those are good too. And I've listened to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those. And then Bashar, there's some good stuff over there. He's not uniformly as non-resistantly, powerfully, gently good as Abraham, but he's good. He's got some stuff. As a matter of fact, I even use some of the stuff in my show. His 135711 download. I liked that one. I thought that was good, and there's meaning behind and stuff behind the 5 things you cannot change and the 7 things you need to survive and the 11 aspects of joy and passion or whatever. Anyway, it's all good stuff, and you add it all together and you go, oh my God, that is what the world is. That is what the world is. So my work involves the marrying of some very, very large concepts, or at least, they can be different subjects, but I want my any of my students to understand how powerfully these different concepts combine with one another to point to great truth and insight about our nature. About our nature and what we're doing here on planet Earth at this time in our history, and how we might be looking at the future. Now, I'm not a practical person in a way, but a tactile person. Well, I'm not. That's not true. I'm a gardener, although my garden is suffering a bit this year because I'm more focused inside and inward as this show draws me. I'm bringing this into my life's reality, and I'm going to use this as a means of expression. Isn't it wonderful that everybody in the whole universe, in the whole world, who has access to the internet now can easily just jump on the radio and have their own radio station? Now, to be fair, I'm not really looking for listeners at the moment, although sincere listeners would be appreciated. I have one. I believe that I have a consistent somebody who is listening to me every day and interested in what I have to say. And you're worth more than gold to me right now. I hope that you really exist. I hope that the one person who listens to it every day is like, no, I this is my first time. What the hell are you talking? You poor thing. No one is listening to you. But it's okay. I'm almost hiding because I'm going to get so good at this that the FBI really is going to wonder, is going to want to stop me. The fossil fuel industry and the powers even of our own government who would stop you from trying to change things. Now, we laugh at the MAGA accusations of the deep state. But let's see how deep that state really is, because if it's there and it's a black ops, a dark thing, has a dark spirit to it, I think there's light and dark. I think there is black ops in our own government, serious black ops. And they're probably the only ones that know the truth about the structure of the universe. But you know what? Even those people, as long as they're people, because if they're aliens, then I really don't know what to say about their character. Because I don't know what the deal is with our alien forefathers. It's possible that they are a race of species who themselves were genetically modified. And they have passed this little gift on to us. And they want to see what we're going to do with it, because it's probably both a curse and a blessing. Our nature, we are powerful creators. We are very powerful creators, and we are either creating by default, banging around, looking at things, liked and not liked. And if you start transfixing on something that you don't like and start screaming and agonizing about, then all that you are doing is you're facing 180 degrees the wrong direction. You in your personal life are walking in the opposite direction of that which you would want. Love, happiness, joy, connection, abundance, comfort, clarity, all of those things, which is what we want. Those are the spirits of what we want. Our inner being knows exactly what these spirits feel like. We can summon the spirits first, and then from that position, now you pick the matter. That's how it works. You can't just fix on the matter, assume that it's primary, and then think that no matter how you feel, just go in and act, and it's going to turn out all right. Well, it isn't going to turn all right. That is the source of human beings' problems on the planet today, or any day ever. This is what the problem is. And we need to understand who we are, and then we can fix this. And it will make all kinds of psychological things way, 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 way better. Our political, our geopolitical life will get a lot better. The way we interact with each other's nations is gonna really improve. The lack is going to go away, because as we start to harmonize with the natural abundance of the field around us, then we're going to start doing the things that build the biofield, instead of right now doing the things that destroy it. And the biggest single thing that we do not have to do is burn fossil fuels. Now, we've built an infrastructure of fossil fuel use, and there are millions of people involved in this. And yes, there are practical concerns, as we don't necessarily need to go whoomp off of fossil fuels without sans a plan in place, some sort of safety net for the fossil fuel industry people. But, we don't need to get practical yet. We're going to stay in the general for a little bit longer, as far as how to address this situation. First of all, we need to kind of see where we are in the movie. And then you can determine for yourself where you are in the movie, where you are on the grid, how you are positioned relative to all of this. It's going to help you understand how to construct your life, how to co-create and interact with the field around you to make your dreams come true. You're going to have to sit down with yourself and think to yourself, well, what do I really want? What do I really want? What do I really, 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 really want? Now, you may have already defined it in physics, like what I want is a house on the hill with a red barn in the back, and this and that and the other, and blah 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 blah. And actually, depending on how you felt when you constructed that picture, you're either dead on, because it's possible for you to be dead on, and you show up at a listing and you go, oh my effing God, this is exactly what I thought of. That means you were really, really in alignment when you got that download of imagination, because your imagination actually is it's a download that you're getting from your broader perspective, your inner being. So I am 28 minutes into the show, and I have really said nothing to any new person about the laws of the universe or anything. I may have been talking to my my fan, if I have one. I hope I have one. I pray that I have one. I want one. I want one. I don't need 1 million yet. I'd like 1 million at some point, because I would like people to understand how important they are, and how we all add into the one thing that we cannot subtract ourselves from. And you can't subtract anybody else from it either, by the way. Thank you very much. It's a lot to swallow at first, but when you find the right angle to view it from, you can take it in. It's like, oh, that's what it is. And what is the right view? Well, this brings us to the first change of slide. Which one of my many familiar slides? I don't have any new slides. They're all old slides. And so if you're a fan of the show, you know what they all signify. You know what they mean. So this is my first one. My first slide change today brings me to this slide. And if you're listening to this, just glance over at your phone and you go, okay, I see that. And now you don't need to listen. Now you don't need to look anymore, because I'm not going to change the slide probably for a minute. And if I change it, I'll tell you. This slide represents to me your actual configuration. You are a binary system. You really are a binary system. And both aspects of this are very much needed to complete the circuit, to have any reality at all, both of these sides are needed. And you are both of these sides. And what are both of these sides? Well, one of them is your source mind, tethered. Well, both of you are tethered to the one spin that we are all coming out of. Both of you are tethered. One is the source spin. It is your inner being. It is the Holy Spirit, if you will. It's the Holy Ghost. This is God. This is whatever. I hate to use these words because people have them all messed up in their mind. So erase what I just said, but it does relate to the concepts that other people, when they talk about these concepts, they label these words, these other things, and then they look at them from a different angle. But this isn't the angle I'm telling you. This is the angle in physics. This is who you really, truly, really, really, truly are. And the other thing we're going to add to this thesis program, we're going to call it a thesis program project, Who Am I? Or the Who Am I project. At some point I'll have people vote and they can tell me which one of those they like best, and that will be the primary feed on the website to get all the information out. And I don't know, all of my information is going to be in some ways limited, finite. It's just my little package, my little it in a nutshell, and how it pulls together other people's ideas, because, you know, I have pulled together all these ideas from other people. Anyway, I think what I just said might have been a non-grammatical nonsense. Hold on a second while I regroup. Okay, I'm back, and we're back to the same question. Who am I? And you're a binary system. The picture on the left signifies your source mind. The picture on the right signifies your individual mind, your specific mind, your physical mind, your conscious mind, the one that you traditionally think of as you, the one that you identify with so strongly that many people identify only this one as you, which is ironic in a way because the other one is actually more you. The other one is way bigger, and there's way more to it, and it's way older. It's way more stable. It's way more permanent. It's way more, and yet it's an aspect of yourself that many people don't even know that you have. You don't even know that you have this. You think that it's the G word or something, and you think it's something other than you. You don't. So you could think of the G word as being the collection of all of our inner beings. All of our inner beings comprise the great vibrational almighty wholeness that is the G word. You could think of it that way. And your inner being is like your personal access point, your ticket to the allness room, you know, the place where everything is. It's all vibrational anyway, and all the vibrations, everyone has access to all of the vibrations of all of the multiverse. Because of a physics truth, which is that an infinite amount of information can be held on an infinitely small point. That is a mathematical truth. And the fact of the matter is that the cosmic vibrational reverberation, the cosmic jiggle, the interference pattern of the quantum field is creating a holographic, all the information of all the universe is everywhere, contained in every proton. Contained in every proton, you get the information of all of the matter, all of the other protons in all of the universe. It's a reflective, refractive, fractal hologram. It's the coolest thing. It's spinning space-time. It's connected. You and me are connected in this divine matrix that is just amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And what it is capable of doing through your focus and your attention and your ability to understand the frequencies and hold certain frequencies. You can help summon into being, into our life experience, the things that you want rather than the nightmare that we've got. If at any point you are looking at a nightmare, an empty bank account and an empty refrigerator and screaming children and a sense of despair and a sense of lack of worthiness because you can't pull it together, because life is hard, because all of these things, and the biggest problem is that you do not understand your own worth. You're not comprehending your own value to this equation, and you're not living fully and authentically who you really are, helping us all create the beautiful, fabulous world that we're all looking for. Instead you're staring at all of the problems thinking, because that's what we've been taught to do. But we don't understand who we are. We don't understand who we are. So who are we? So what does it mean that I have these two minds, that I am these two selves? Well, they are both thinking thoughts, and these thoughts that they are thinking, while they are absolutely autonomous from one another, your source mind is thinking whatever your source mind is thinking, because it has bigger projects and bigger ideas. It has ideas of freedom and play and projects of a betterment for humanity, to improve the systems and structures in order to improve human experience. It's got all kinds of ideas of things, but what it really is, actually, I don't know about all those things I just said, but I do know something else that I will put in. So this is what it knows. It knows everything about the atoms and the molecules and the temperatures and the velocities and all of that, of the masses and the forces. It knows everything about the physics of the universe, because it's connected to the physics of the universe through the Planck field. The Planck field is these infinitely, it's not infinitely, but it's really, 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 really small wavelengths. It's the smallest wavelength that you get in this density universe. You take a photon going at the speed of light. I believe it's the smallest. It's a little Planck oscillator, a vacuum fluctuation, and it's what the whole universe is made of. And it's solid pack. At the resting point where there appears to be nothing, there isn't nothing. It's still this roiling sea of Planck oscillators. And when they go into coherence, they go into spin, and this spin we call different elements depending on what frequency they're spinning at. They are different elements. It's funny that we didn't know this before. One of the problems is since it's everywhere, and it doesn't appear to be, it's hard to know. It appears to be stochastic. Stochastic meaning random, and doesn't have any organization to it, so we don't know what to do with it. But that isn't true. When it organizes, the Planck field spins into protons, and every proton is a little black hole. It's a little integer of information, and all of the Plancks in the Planck field of a single proton is reflecting. Here, I have a picture. It's this one, I think. This one, I took this from the paper that Nassim Haramein and there's a couple of other people. I saw them on a video yesterday. They were answering questions, and their material is so amazing, and their ability to vocalize it, to express it, is kind of dry. They're all a bunch of physicists with this amazing material that they've got. They have unified quantum and cosmological physics. I cannot say more emphatically how important this is. The thing is the way that they did it, but the mathematics lines up. The mathematics of this, looking at it from this direction, works. And so I don't see how you can avoid it. And the fact that the mathematics works means that technology can follow. Mathematics precedes the technology, and the technology is going to change the world. The mathematics is understanding how matter emerges from the field in the first place. And in our understanding that, we're going to be able to affect it. We're going to be able to do things like keep the cells of our own body coherent longer. That equals lifespan. We're going to be able to print material directly from the quantum field, almost like a 3D printer, that we will be able to make goods. The raw materials need to be there, but the universe, that's really advanced, and I actually am not clear about how you get to that point. But we do not have to munch up our environment we don't have to turn the truffula trees into thneeds madly the way we do. It's part of what's creating, on the one hand, an abundance on the supply chain, and starting to be a scarcity in the biofield. And there doesn't need to be a scarcity on either side of that, and the stuff that we create could be less toxic and less. But you know what? When we get our handle on the energy thing of this, we can recycle anything, and so even that doesn't matter, you know. So how does this work? What am I saying? Who am I? Who am I as source energy? What is source energy? What is the source of matter? What is the source of matter and the nature of gravity? That's another thing that's going to be solved. And with it's going to come a whole new can of worms. It's going to open up a whole new can of worms, especially until and unless human beings understand more clearly who they are and what their emotions are, what their negative emotions are. So when you are overcome with a negative emotion, the idea is not to continue to stare at what you think the condition is from that position of looking at it through a lens of negative emotion. The idea is to disconnect as quickly as possible and recognize exactly what just happened. That you just crossed your energy stream. You are no longer looking at it at the way you, small you, is no longer looking at anything the way you, capital Y, small y, capital Y, you and you, are looking at it anymore. And we're going to go back to this picture because this just says it. This is you, and they are both you. One is just the accumulation of all of your love, everything you care about, all of where the farthest reaches of your highest self. It's sort of like where the needle has reached highest at any point in your, and you know what? Since it is always positive, when you go negative, it can't go negative, so it takes the implicate positive to the negative. So when you are in a negative emotion because you don't have enough money, your inner being doesn't mark not enough money, your inner being takes the implicate positive, knows what you are asking for. And the vibration of what you are asking for is what it goes and holds. Now it's holding that frequency. If you can go find it, it will lead you right to the steps, the impulses in your life that will lead you to rendezvous in the rolling manifestation and the acquisition of goods and services. It will lead you to the experiences that equal those feelings. I know I just said that. I meant to say that really clear. And by the time I got to the end of it, I feel like I was a little bit on the convoluted side. So let's look at your emotional guidance scale for just a minute. We haven't done that yet today. Don't take your negative emotions seriously. They are not who you really are. Know that only the love is real. That's something that we learned from A Course in Miracles. Only the love is real. So it's a question of focus. You have to keep the love and the good and the light in the center of your focus. And when you look at the darkness, when you look at the bad things of this world, you see them in your peripheral vision. Like things like all of the woes. I have this litany, this brief, very brief litany of massive suffering issues that are facing humanity on planet Earth at this time. Things like, we aren't feeding everybody. We got billions of people starving. That's terrible. Human suffering, children, starving children, all that is terrible. War. The wars don't end. That one in Israel, terrible. Ukraine, they just won't end. Well, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because we're squabbling over resources, but we don't need to. Because there are way more resources. There is a vast, vast, vast well of resource that we have not tapped yet. And there's two ways to tap it. One is literally and extract have it be the power source of our 21st and 22nd century's civilization. Make sure we make it to the 22nd century, because we're going to kill ourselves in this century if we don't get it now. We're on the way to self-extinction and a lack of ability to provide for ourselves, and then we think, oh, we're going to escape to Mars. It's the craziest, freaking nuttiest thing I have ever heard in my life. If we don't get it here, we're never going to make it on Mars. Now, if we can figure it out here, then I believe we actually can go colonize Mars. But I don't think that colonizing Mars because we can't figure out how to live on planet Earth is a good choice. I think that's pretty stupid. Anyway, what does cause your negative emotions? What are your negative emotions? You have to understand you are a positive being. That's what I'm telling you. Only the love is real. The stuff that ain't love isn't you. It's you crosswise of your own equipment. That's all it is. And no matter how far you have gone down the road of this, it doesn't matter if you're Hitler. It does not matter. You are still looking at the same thing. Now, someone like Hitler has locked himself firmly into the out of alignment position. He is locked in. And to get him out of it would be, I would like to sit Hitler down and explain to him. I would need a long time to do it. And he would need to sit there with his mouth taped shut and listening to, I could soothe Hitler into understanding what just happened, last century. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. Only the love is real. If you are way not being love, and I can point at a few people who are almost institutionally locked into, a very terrible negative state. Actually, let me back up here. I feel like I'm wandering into an eddy. I see some things that really need to be said, but I'm not sure that I'm coming at them from the right direction. So I do have things to say about our political environment and the explanation and interpretation of what we're looking at and what we need to glean from this moment. Now, how do I make this particular election come out better than the horror it's shaping up to be? I don't know. I don't know, because we have the autocrat on the one hand, and we have the senility. You know, I don't care how nice you think Grandpa is. Should he really be running an empire of over 300 million people? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think that the angry autocrat wannabe is a really bad choice, too. What he's going to do is he's going to wreck it. And not everything that we've done needs to be wrecked, although some of it kind of needs to. All of the unsustainable needs to come down, and there's quite a bit of that. Quite a bit of our infrastructure is unsustainable and is going to need to come down. But I wouldn't suggest just wrecking it. I would suggest instead turning towards the infrastructure that we need to be building, and let's just start turning our attention towards building that. And in the meantime, as long as we need to burn fossil fuels in order to fully get to the place where we are transitioned off of them, that's fine. We're going to need a bit of time anyway, because do you know what is going to happen when clean, free energy is available to absolutely every Tom, Dick, and Harry? Tom, Dick, and Vladimir. Actually, it's going to take away Vladimir Putin's power, because right now, as a petro oligarch, that's where his power is coming from. His ability to control the energy source of his entire enormous nation and then, throw his weight around to his neighbors is causing the problem. That's what the problem is. And if everybody had their own source of energy, then Vladimir Putin he wouldn't have that kind of power. Now, you close one can of worms and you're going to open up another one, because right now, in the paradigm that we've got, with everybody with our superstitious nonsense that we've been raised with, I mean, our parents did the best they could, but most of them were working off of, at best, 19th century cosmologies. I know that my religion, it was literally founded in the 20th century, in the 19th century, 1830 or something like that. So it really is 19th century cosmology. But we're going to have cult leaders and all kinds of things as everybody scatters off into the bushes and is capable of each one creating their own little nation. That's probably what the people at national security are worried about, because we don't know who we are. We're absolute idiots. But, we've been kept that way. They've been keeping us that way. And a lot of it has been forces of greed, sort of operating separately and coming together in mutual projects of mutual benefit. Scratching, mutual back scratching, and whatnot going on. And that's what creates this growing field of it's a fascist thing, where the levers and structures of industry start merging with the levers and structures of political power. And right now, it's all tangled up with fossil fuel use. The pipelines that take the energy across the whole infrastructure of fossil fuel use. It's the chain of it is very, very large. Now, the people who work on the pipeline, maybe a finite number of people, and then the people who have to maintain it, that's a very small number of people. But you got the people at the refineries, you have the people that all of the people working in all of the fossil fuel industry, as well as all of the people working with all of the technology that marries with so the people that work at the gas stations and the people that work at the convenience marts at the gas stations, the people that drive the trucks, and the people that work at the refineries, and the people that drive the oil tankers, and the people that work out on the platforms, and the people that and there's a lot, and then you have all the people that work in the hospitals that work on the people that because fossil fuel industry is very destructive in a lot of ways, everything from asthma and to the poisoning of. There's a great deal of infrastructure and action and motion and people with their jobs and people extracting money from their jobs to tie into the human supply chain. There's a lot of stuff that is directly and indirectly tied to the fossil fuel industry. So when we change from that, how are these people going to monetize? Well, that's interesting. We're going to have to organize ourselves differently. Right now, I can feel myself in my mind. I can see my mind going to all kinds of pictures about where we're going to end up in our organization. And that isn't what I need to be talking to people about today, because that's just someplace we're going to get to. And we're going to get there one individual at a time. So I don't want to say it right out, blab it right out loud, and then have everybody trying to hit that as an outside target, instead of realizing it's a prediction of what it's going to look like when we all follow the path from inside of ourselves. I really don't have much specific things to say about how people should exactly act, other than the fact that I would advise that you know thyself. Know that you are these two beings, and your emotions are a resonance or a discord between the thoughts of your two minds. But who you really are is the positive one. Who you really are is probably the one you didn't even know about. You thought you really were the other one, and the other one is just the one you're being now. Just the one you are this life. The one on the right, that's your expirational self. That's your physical mind, your physical self, the brain in your skull, the being on the grid shining the light on your life in this time right now. That's who the one on the right is. And without that one, the other one has no existence. It needs us in the physical world for it to live its vibrational knowing, its dance of knowing and connecting to all that is. Anyway, so you might think that you really are the physical one. And you are that one, but it's only who you are temporarily. The other one is who you really are. And I'm going to use the air quotes. That's who you really are. You are both of them. I say it's who you really are because it's who you always are. The source aspect of you is your continuum and your connected continuum. It's the one that knows what you are about and what you care about and where you have been. It actually is a collection of all the things that you have declared that you, I could say, like, I could say prefer, but it actually boils down to, it is the essence of everything that you love. Everything and all things that you love. What you have been listing as your preferences for all time. And here in your physical body as a human being, you really advanced the creative cause quite a bit in these last few centuries of your history, as you have been telling this story about yourself, you really have, you've come a long way in creating this vortex of that we're going to get to. We're absolutely going to get to it because it's all sitting there in universal consciousness. And as we come to our realizations of who we actually are, we realize that our problems are nothing. We cannot be, our problems are nothing, but they're not nothing. They're important. They're important problems that we need to solve. But we solve them by realizing that nothing's broken, that it's all absolutely perfect. We just need to understand it. And that includes ourselves. And so every one of you out there, I know that the biggest bane on the face of the planet right now is human insecurity, human lack of self-worth, humanity's not understanding how really cool and really special we are, and every single one of us is. You can't subtract us. You can't make anybody go away. You can't control people. And there are more and more and more and more of us. And just try to control everybody. It would get so ugly. And there are going to be people who are going to try. But the more that this happens, the more it becomes obvious who we really are and what is actually happening. The evil that you see in this world is the head not connected to the heart. It's a Wetiko disease, as Paul Levy would put it, as the Native Americans would have put it. Wetiko, it's a condition of your two selves not being in alignment, your physical mind not being in alignment with the reality of your actual physical world around you. Now, it turns out you have an enormous amount of power to bend it in all kinds of ways, regardless of what's, here I'm air quoting again, true. And that's why it doesn't appear that reality matters. But I'm telling you right now, reality absolutely matters. Your inner being is connected to actual reality, to the actual state of the physical atoms and all of that. Your inner being, who is vibrational in nature, which you would call it then spiritual, because it's a hidden force that you cannot see, but it's moving everything. So that sounds spiritual, but it isn't spiritual. It's actually in touch with actual reality. Reality matters. Isn't that interesting? And here there's a whole generations of people who can't see that it does. But reality absolutely does matter. And how this whole scenario is going to play out is going to be very interesting. It's going to show us in a big way, in a big collective illustration, a big public illustration, who and what we really are. Which is both wonderful and god-awful. Probably a poor choice of words. Anyway, so where are we? It looks like we are coming up on an hour and 4 minutes, which means the first half of the show is past. The second half is coming up. I don't know if I've really said anything, or if I'm just coloring in the in between the lines. Am I demarking the lines anymore, or am I just coloring in the middles? Let's see. I like this one. This one is my slide. I talk about the 4 general states of being, and somebody's going to help me illustrate this way, way better at some point. I have my customary morning frog in my throat that I have to cough up. I used to drink hot tea in the morning to try to solve this problem. I have a runny nose in the morning too, so you didn't need to hear that. Here's my 4 general states of being, and the reason I put this slide up, and the reason that this one means what it means to me, is that this represents your accelerator and your braking system. The state of being that you are in is determining whether you are going in the direction that you want to go or whether you are going away from where you want to go. You only have those 2 choices. Now, a lot of people are confused about that because what they are doing is actually they go in the direction they want and then immediately not in the direction they want, and then they turn back forward and then they turn back backwards, and then they go forward and then they go backward, and then they go forward, backward, forward, backward, forward, backward. They switch. They're mercurial in their the way they are objectively looking at the world. Oh, I like this, I don't like that. Yeah, this is good, but man, people are shit. Oh, but I love my children, but oh, I'm so afraid of this. And they end up like forward, backward, and so they are not going anywhere. And so, but then physically their bodies are moving around, and so they don't understand how they can be absolutely 100% either. It's a toggle switch of only 2 directions. The nuance lies after you've toggled, but the toggle is absolute. You're either going in the direction of what you want or you are going 180 degrees in the opposite direction. And if you're in a positive emotion, you're facing forward. And if you're in a negative emotion, you've gotten yourself twirled around, and you're facing backwards now. And from that position, you don't want to start walking fast. And when you go specifics, that's when you get specific, you start. It's the accelerator. You go faster in the direction of whichever direction you are. So if you've gotten yourself facing backwards, don't go specific. Go general. The general is your brakes. The specific is your accelerator. Make sure that you're facing forward and have a good momentum of facing forward. Because if you're in the habit of going forward, backward, and you are forward for a second and you put on the gas and then accidentally fall into a backward and then you keep the gas going, the next thing you know, you're often fighting with your loved ones, or having an accident on the highway, or you're in jail because you beat somebody up because you were so freaking mad at what they did to your sister, or on and on and on and on and on. So you got to be careful. Which direction are you going? It changes moment to moment. It changes thought to thought. And we're talking about all of this is a discussion about the alignment that you have between you and you. You gotta know that you are you and you. If you think that you are just you, and you don't realize that you have this vibrational overview, for a while I was thinking of it as my cosmic vibrational anatomy. It really is you. Whoever you are, you've got this. And it is pure positive. It is pure love. It is pure knowing. It is liquid love. It is the you that you really are connects to the you that everybody else really is. Now, I'm not talking about the you that they are or the them that they are being. That's a whole nother thing. If the you that you really are is not blending very well with your physical self, then the you that you're being is probably an asshole. and I hate that word, so I shouldn't use it, but probably a jerk. An angry person in an angry party. There's some significant things that we have to realize on some level. Now you realize it on some level, but on some other level, you're still operating as an individual because you have to operate as an individual. That is the only way to do this. But the truth of the matter is there is only one of us here. And if you have the ability to identify that way, to taste that in your mind, to imagine that and go, oh yeah, I can see that. Your imagination is capable of imagining the world as it really is. Did you know that? Your inner being knows how the world really is. And so if you would line your physical mind up with what your inner being knows about the physical world, you would know it too. It is sitting there in universal consciousness for all of us to have access to. We all have access to universal consciousness. I think this is something that our national security probably doesn't want us to really know. Because you can't really hide information. Not really, really, really. Not really, really. Not in this holographic universe. Not in this universe where it is possible to do things like remote viewing and clairvoyant perception. All of those things. It is possible. You just have to understand how the universe is designed and then line your physical mind up with what your conscious mind, what your eternal mind, what your vibrational inner being mind knows. Be humble about it. Don't think that you and your physical mind know it all. You are humble and subservient to the broader perspective of yourself that truly does know everything. So where does this leave us, and why do I think that this is going to get us off fossil fuels? Well, now I realize that this is not good technology, but in the description of this video, I put a links list of things. It's a list of things that I want to share with people, and I know that there's better ways to do this. I see other people doing this better. And at some point, this is going to not be an issue whatsoever. Somebody's going to sweep in, and they're going to help me, and it's going to be done in a second. And my website's going to be so slick, and this video, this show is going to be, the production value is going to be so much better. I understand that. Right now, I almost don't want lots of viewers because I need to get stronger and stronger and stronger in my ability to express this, in my convictions about it, where it just comes out of me. I'm already doing a good job, and I already could work with others if they wanted to work with me, but right now, at this point, if I became really popular, I'd probably just be targeted by the FBI and maybe even murdered by somebody. I don't know. It all depends. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but if this really could change the world, there's a lot of people who don't want the world changing the way I want to change it, or at least not at first. But you know what? We're all going to do better. This is going to be an enormous influx of energy. Literally, energy will be injected into the system. And idle hands are going to go off and start creating worlds. And the worlds are going to get so interesting. You know, the little autonomous family worlds that are going to be able to go off and create their own whatever. And some of it's going to be a nightmare. There's going to be cults cropping up, everybody in their own little private Idahos. But I don't think so, really. We're going to stay connected as a whole. I think it's going to be fine. I think the can of worms that we will open up as clean, free energy is available to all people, I think it's going to be fine. We're going to be able to fix it. Because when you understand who you really are, it does bring you into a loving, kind... your perspective on your fellow human being changes quite a bit. And you quit wanting to drop bombs on him. And instead, you want to soothe his fevered brow. You want to put a cool cloth to his head instead of a gun. I see a world in front of us that is nothing but peace on earth, goodwill towards us all, and us creating abundance and regardening planet Earth. We actually, did you know that we already have invented all of the technology that we need to solve every one of the problems that I list every day? You know, global warming, sixth mass extinction, interminable wars, garbage island, growing deserts, starving children, all of those things. Every one of those things can be, we have the technology to fix every one of those things. What we don't have is the power. We can resequester carbon right back into the earth. We can desalinate ocean water. We can recycle garbage island. We can grow massive quantities of food for ourselves and anybody else on the planet that needs food, human or non-human. We can do all of this. But what we don't have is the energy to do it. And when we use fossil fuel energy to do it, we create so much dirt and muck and scarcity along the way as we do it. And then there isn't enough to go around, and the population is growing, which means we have to dig more and more and more of it up. And the next thing you know, we're going to be choking on a dead cinder. And we don't want to do that, and we don't have to do that. But the people who own the hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of economic activity represented by the fossil fuel industry, they want us to keep doing it. Because while we keep doing that, they own the world. They run the world. They are the Dr. Evils and whatever that are calling the shots behind the scenes. They're plotting and scheming in their billion-dollar yachts. Anyway, that's how I see it. The secret is, so I started this, I went to the list. Did I ever click the links list? This is the links to all of the things that I want to share with you. The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. That's a documentary discussing the over a century of the suppression of basic over-unity devices. Now, an over-unity device is a device that puts out more energy than it takes to run, and we think it's not possible to do that because we think that, within a closed system, if it's putting out more energy than it takes to run it, then it must be, just creating energy out of nothing, and physics says you can't do that. Well, it's not creating energy out of nothing. There is nowhere where there's nothing, and there's nowhere where there is not quite a lot of energy. A single atom has an enormous amount of energy in it, as we discovered when we split the damn thing and blew up Japan. There is nowhere where it's nothing, and there's nowhere where it's a closed system, and over-unity devices are absolutely possible and have been possible all along. And how on earth is it possible that if you ask anybody who has been conventionally educated through our college system, our university system, how come they don't know this? Why is this being kept a secret? So anyway, Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, that's all about that. Then we have The Origin of Mass and Nature of Gravity, the video that explains the paper. And later I have listed the link to the paper too. You can see it a little bit farther down. We have Quantum Revolution, first episode of Nassim Haramein's 12-episode series over on Gaia, explaining the new physics, the unified physics, how it is that the quantum world relates to the cosmological world, how it does it mathematically, and then you got to wrap your consciousness around what that means in reality as you look around you. This is how reality is coming into being, and how gravity is, what the force of gravity is. So what it is this the one? Yeah. As these oscillators, these Planck oscillators come into, as they are thrown into spin through gradient density in the field, and I mean this in a really big way bigger than those words sounded, as they come into being as spin. They begin spinning. Spin is baked into the cake. Spin is part of the equation. That's what gravity is. You can't have mass without the spin, because the spin itself is what the Plancks do to come into. Every proton is a little vortex of spinning ether, the ether of this Planck field, in an integer, in a black wholeness, spelled with a W, not just an H. It's baked into the cake, and that's what gravity is. When you take a Planck in the Whirling Dervishes of the quantum world, this incredibly dense world of the quantum, the Plancks at the quantum level are dense to the order of 10 to the 93. At the cosmological level, the mass is very much not dense to the level of 10 to the minus 30. That is 127 orders of difference. It's huge, the difference between the density at the Planck level and the density at the cosmological level. But if you take one of those Plancks and at its density at the Planck scale and blow it up to the size of the universe, funny thing, you get the right density. You don't just get the density of the matter of the universe, you get the density of the visible matter plus the dark matter and the dark energy. You get the right number for the density of the universe to hold it together, for it to be what it is. Don't you know that our universe is a Planck that has been spun off of a density? It's hard to wrap your head around what this means to physical reality. But anyway, that I shouldn't have left my list before I finished describing my links. Then we have The Connected Universe. That is the movie that was made back in 2016, the first mathematics that was published that described the mathematical relationship between the Planck world, the world of the quantum at the Planck level, and the world of the cosmological at the cosmological level. That was published back in 2012. And this movie was made in 2016, The Connected Universe. It's narrated by Patrick Stewart. It's quite good. It's a YouTube version of it, so it's free. And then Living in the Future's Past. That's also a YouTube version of this movie. It's narrated by Jeff Bridges. It isn't really talking about it exactly like I am, but it does discuss humanity as a superorganism, which we certainly are. We have a supply chain. We have communication systems. We communicate amongst one another. We distribute goods amongst each other. We transport. We are a superorganism on planet Earth in the way that we organize and so that's interesting. Let's see. Paul Levy, all of his article list, just because I like him and I like all of his stuff. And his ideas of Wetiko and the connection between quantum physics and Jungian psychology has actually brought me to a lot of my understandings that I have come to at this time. So I throw him in there too. Then there's the paper. And then the last one is just a little ditty. Because everything is spin. The universe is organizing us all by way of spin. And it knows how and where and at what speed and in what direction and connected to what and caring about what, how we are all spinning. It knows that because your source mind, I'm going to go back to the picture now since I'm done explaining my little list. Because your two minds are connected to one another. You are inextricably connected to your source mind. That's how come you have negative emotion. Because when you take a thought that is not in resonant alignment with the thoughts that your inner being knows to be true about the universe, you feel negative emotion. You feel the discord between the two. You have to know you really are positive. You really are love. You really are source. That's who you really are. You were source energy before you came into this physical body, and you will be source energy when you pass away from this physical body. And you will likely come into another physical body because that's what physical beings want to do. That's what the project is. It's project physical. That's what all non-physical energies are thinking about, is project physical. What else? There's only one thing going on here, and it is life, people. It is the movement and evolution of the universes, of all of biology, of all of consciousness, of all of understanding. That's what the project is, and that's what all non-physical is concerned about. Project physical. And you are right smack dab in the middle of project physical. And if you don't like it, well, when you pass away, you don't have to take another body. You did it on purpose. You can join the angels and just, cheer on. As a matter of fact, probably part of you does, and is right now non-physical and cheering all the physical on. There's only one of us here. And all of the beings are different aspects of the one of us that is here. Be kinder in your thoughts towards your fellow beings, both human and non-human. It is tough enough to be out here on the physical, raw and ragged edge of physicality. It is not easy. It feels like you're all alone, but you aren't. Not in the slightest. And then when you achieve the feeling of not being alone, you realize, oh my gosh, I am so not alone. But you can't see it until you achieve the feeling. And isn't it funny? You go, well, show me that it's true and I'll feel it. Well, I'm telling you it's true. You have an inner being. She is vibrational and she is in touch with all reality. And I know that that can be true because everything's holographic and all the information is everywhere. So it absolutely makes sense to me that I would have an aspect of myself that is connected to the rest of the world. I can believe it with my physical mind now. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I see how that could work. I get it. So where does this leave us? Now, if you're a fan of the show, and not many people are, but it doesn't matter. I have to say that. If you're a fan of the show, because I may have fans now that can go back and listen. You may not know this, but I have made over 100 shows. There are 80 some that are forward facing right now. The others are unlisted, and I would list them if I wasn't afraid that they'd be put in the wrong order. I don't want them to be put front forward now. But in any case, you can go back and watch all this stuff and see that I do this all the time. One of my things that I am saying in my thesis, first of all, over-unity devices are possible, and we could use them to incrementally move ourselves off of fossil fuel as we seek the Holy Grail, which is a true understanding of how to extract energy from the source of all things. So that's one thing. I want us to understand that, and the other thing is understanding our own configuration. You might wonder, why are we the way we are? You may not wonder that. You may say, well, just because things got to be some way. This just happens to be the way we are. Why would you even ask why? Well, because I think that there is good evidence that we do have a kind of alien technology within our structure. But it's not, what we have is we have evidence of genetic modification. We have a little bit of evidence that perhaps the human design is the way it is because somebody tweaked us so. So this is a diagram of the physical brain, which is composed of different parts. You have your lizard brain, the mammalian brain, then the neocortex being an overlay, an overview mind to the other two. The ability to step back a pace and think bigger thoughts about it, to think about yesterday, today, tomorrow, put it all together, to think about, all history, to extract meaning from things. That's what your neocortex can do that your other minds can't do. What they're doing is they are reacting and responding and relating to their physical environment, to threats in their physical environment, and cues and responses to things, to, something threatens your baby and you respond. It's probably a hormonal response. You get an influx of adrenaline to power your ability to leap to the defense of your defenseless mammalian young. Whatever. Your neocortex mind is like the analogy of this mind. So back to this picture for just a second. Your neocortex is to the rest of your mind as your source mind is to you in your specific physical mind. Do you see the analogy there? And that's why it's important that your physical mind line up with your source mind. Because your physical mind, with its overview capability, is thinking thoughts about the meaning of everything that you're looking at. And the truth about how matter is moving. You're thinking about that kind of stuff. When you do physical projects in this world, when you make plans to travel, when you design a building or vote for a candidate or whatever, you are making statements about your overview ability to extract an understanding of what reality actually is. Well, your source mind already knows. And so it's a good idea if, as you construct this in your physical mind, be a little more humble and get some clues from your source mind. If thoughts that you are thinking generate negative emotions in you, like Jews are killing the world, that makes me feel so angry, that is generating in you a negative emotion, well, that'll tell you right off the bat that your inner being is disagreeing with this thought you just had. It's your first clue that your thought is wrong and stupid. Now, just because you feel a negative emotion about something, that does not necessarily mean that you are not witnessing something in the field that is causing you to be jangly. And that is true. You're probably witnessing something that is out of alignment. And that actually is part of how come this chain of events has been thrown into motion that ends up with you feeling something in the pit of your stomach that you did to yourself, but it's also tagged into a reality in the field. You are the field. You're reflecting yourself. It's all part of the system. You got to understand who you are. Quit taking your negative mind so seriously. It's not you. It's you facing backwards. Get yourself facing forwards and then go specific. Get as specific as you can when you're feeling good and withdraw when you do not feel good. Rethink what you think is going on in this world and who you think you really are. You are so many things. You are your physical self. You absolutely are this meat suit that you are wearing. You are that too, but it's not the only thing you are, and it's not the biggest thing you are. The biggest thing you are is this vibrational source energy connected to everything else and connected to all of reality. Love, energy. That's who you really are. As well as this meat suit that has to figure out the meaning of life and how do I orchestrate my own life and how do I direct my own actions in this world where anything goes. The rules say that anything is possible. Anything is, and there are some people that want to slam those rules down. They want to go back to law and order as opposed to breaking free and let the spirit guide us from here on. My mother used to she had an explanation of something. She was a bit religious. Not terribly, but she was religious. In that religion that I broke free of mentally when I was 14 years old, I took the lens off my consciousness about it. Since then, I have come to realize some really significant points about this particular religion that make it quite powerful. This religion has a tendency to emphasize, let's see, there's two things. Let me think about this for a second. I want to get the two things clear. So this religion, when in the hands of people that I really respected, the way they in truth followed this religion, because you can turn any religion to any spirit that you want by just twisting. Get out of alignment with your inner being. Take that same religious topic and you can twist the crap out of it. But this religion has a tendency to emphasize, first of all, they have this emphasis on spirit first. So we get into the right frame of spirit first, and now we could talk about stuff. So spirit first, that to me almost says alignment first. And then they have an emphasis on listening to that still small voice within you, which is the Holy Ghost, which I think is your connection to your inner being. And so anybody that emphasizes spirit alignment first and then listen to your inner being, well, that's a good start. Now, then they throw in a bunch of, 19th century cosmology into it that kind of loses me on. But then they do have some really good work in the pedagogical way of the human life, as far as taking care of the big moments, the moments that human behavior, like the birth of children and the death of people's death and marriages and the raising of children and all of the practical things. There's a lot of practical on the ground stuff that happens as a community has to take care of things that need to be taken care of. Lovingly make sure that everyone in the tribe is fed and emotionally cared for, that sort of thing. So, anyway, you may or may not be able to guess which religion I'm talking about. If you know who I am, then you know what religion I'm talking about, possibly. But in any case, I have a lot of respect for them. But I see limitations in the cosmology of it. But I understand where and why they are so successful, where they are so successful. And then where sometimes the cult versions of them go so terribly awry. You know, it all boils back to who am I? Who are we as human beings? And what is the human project? You know, what is the movie? What's the story? What is the human story actually? Where are we in the human story? Well, I'll tell you where I think we are. We're poised at that moment on the brink of self-destruction that is going to be saved at the last minute, because we're going to figure out who we are, and we're going to quit burning fossil fuels because of it. And we're going to start repairing the threads of the biofield, and we're going to start leaning in the direction of all the things that we want. And what is it that we want? We want to play with one another. We love to play with one another. We want to raise our children in a world of abundance and security. Well, we certainly have not created that right now. As a matter of fact, I have a grandson that I love so much. He's such a dear, sweet pie. But, you know, watching him walk around the world makes you realize how dangerous it is. When he was a particular age, and he's not much past it now, he would absolutely home in on the sharpest, most poisonous crap in order to, you know, that if you hadn't intercepted him, it would have gone straight into his mouth. You know, we have created such a dangerous world. We want to play with one another. We want to live in a world of abundance and freedom and joy and efficiency and clarity and love, loving kindness, peace on earth, heaven on earth. We want to live that life. We would like to see our starving neighbors fed. I don't want to hear anymore about the things that we're killing and the things that are starving and the things that are painful and the things that are... I would like us to lean in, to know who we are and lean in the direction of all of the things that we want. A smarter world, a kinder world, a living world, not a dead one. I do believe that the abundance that we are looking for will be found when we tap into other sources of energy. And they are abundant. They abound around us. Start with that movie, The Lost Century, and how to reclaim it. And that will give you a sense of how this is going to happen incrementally. Then watch all the stuff I showed you about Nassim Haramein and all of his work on the understandings of source energy, where matter, gravity, all the forces, all the energy, where is it all coming from, and how does reality come into being? That's all of his work. Then go study the freaking law of attraction and understand that you individually are creating your own reality. Every second, are you facing forward or are you facing backwards? Are you facing towards growth, towards love, or are you in fear or protection? Where is the source of every thought that you have? Where are your thoughts coming from? Because how your thoughts are blending or not blending with the thoughts that your inner being has, that is what's creating your emotions. Your emotions are no more and no less than that. It is an indication to you of how your two selves are blending. But more than that, it's a testament that you have two selves. It's your two selves, people. So I said that I believe that we're genetically modified, and this is my evidence. This is peer-reviewed journal, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, over at pnas.org. So easy to find this article. Go look for it. Go find it. It's 5 pages long, maybe. This is the abstract. This is the title. You find this volume, put out October 15th, 1991. They're listed chronologically. You don't have to log into anything. You don't have to give them any information. It's free. Just go find it. It's really easy to find. I couldn't find this by way of page number. I couldn't find a table of contents or anything that... I just looked at all the titles. It's the 40th one in. The 40th title in is this article. And what happens is that our scientists publish their work to each other. And then what each other does is they review it, and if they disagree with it, then they publish on their own and say and refute it or whatever. They're making their own scientific names and careers by doing this. You know, hey, I'm so smart, I understand this stuff, and here's my da-da-da-da-da. And they speak in a language that's very, it's extremely specialized. It's highly specialized to their particular discipline, and so only their peers are really going to understand this crap. Look at the full abstract to this. Now, a whole lot of that is, genetic speak garbledygook, but other geneticists understand exactly. I kind of understand what they're talking about as they are analyzing the sequences of the genetic material of the human chromosome number 2, which, by the way, is responsible for 76% of the volume of that neocortex. I get that number from Greg Braden. Whether that's exactly the right number or whether it's just know that chromosome is responsible for the inflated volume of our neocortex. And it appears to me that it's intentionally done. Look at this. We conclude that blah, 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 blah is the relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which 2 ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. Now, whether you think that was done intentionally or whether you think somehow that was done accidentally, naturally, somehow incremental Darwinian evolutionary processes just did that, I can't believe that. And when you realize what was created, this mirror mind to the source mind, the emotions that speak to the divine matrix, that speak to the field, that let you know which direction you are going in life, period. Are you moving forward with your evolutionary pure positive self in concert with the rest of reality, or are you somehow crosswise of your own proper impulses coming from source, and now you're going in the opposite direction? Where are you? And in your knowing of where you are, now you know whether to put on the gas or whether to put on the brakes. If you're in a negative state, put on the freaking brakes, realign yourself, reorient yourself, get yourself facing forward again. Now go specific. Now put on the gas. That's the answer. That's the answer from the specific point of view. We could talk a lot more about all of this. At some point, I'm going to need questions in the room to help me focus, dial in on what part of any of this I'm leaving out, what part somebody listening to it is not getting that I'm assuming. I'm going to need questions in the room. So I have this is the 5 kleshas. If you've never heard of them, they come from Buddhist philosophy. They are considered to be the root causes of all suffering. Basically, they're saying that us not understanding what reality actually is what is causing the problem. And they even talk about knowing that, it's all pixelated blips, that are disconnected from one another is actually creating this, what appears to be a continuum. Like a motion picture that is comprised of single frames, but when you run them all together, it looks like you can see the experience of the movie. That's exactly what reality is doing too. And every one of these pixels is a Planck. It's a Planck oscillator. And every Planck time, everything is winking all the way out and then all the way back in. Anyway, so the five kleshas say, let's see, not knowing what's real, grasping and clinging to the unreal. Remember, only the love is real. And you might be grasping and clinging at the fear and the hatred or the threats. You're focusing in on the dangers instead of, which it basically is grasping and clinging to the unreal instead of getting your focus where it belongs, which is on the real. And where is that? It's on the love, because only the love is real. So quit believing the crap that you're getting from your neighbor that ain't love. Know who he really is. And you know, in my experience, every single time I have ever done that with any individual, they always show me that I was right, that there is something inside that crustiness. There is a love inside of that crusty crab, that crusty a-hole. Let's see. On number 4 here, they say identifying with an imaginary self. I think of that more as this, and you can ask yourself whether you agree with me or not, but this is what I think about this. That fourth one, identifying with an imaginary self, I'm going to slightly amend it. I'm going to say overly identifying with your expirational self and not being aware of the larger self that you really are. That is more the problem. In any case, I'm starting to come to the end of the show. I do this organically. I don't have an exact time that I stop. Yesterday, I mentioned cymatics again because I think it's interesting. Cymatics, I throw it in there because it's a great way to illustrate the absolute real truth that I'm trying to tell you. It is a vibrational universe. We live in a vibrational universe. We are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. That's why you can believe that you have an inner being and that this inner being could possibly know what I'm telling you that she knows. She knows the truth of all of physical reality. So what's she looking at then? Well, she's looking at where you have declared your love. She is looking at the love. She is looking for love. She is looking, if you don't understand me when I use those words, she is looking at your desire. She is, when you asked for more, you shot off a rocket, an energetic rocket of desire that went straight to the place without resistance, went straight to the implication of what you were asking for. Didn't stop in the agony of you not having it, went straight to the sensation of what you're asking for. That, you know, what the feeling of security in your not security that went straight for the abundance that you want, the beauty that you're asking for, and actually it happens in a general way, which is what I'm describing to you, but it also happens in a really specific way. As you bang around your specific human life, your imagination and your impulses and thought processes are all tagging you into a real world around you. And so the specifics that you're asking for, you know, I understand why Abraham talks about a vortex of creation and your inner being tending your vortex of creation. Your inner being is sitting at the vibrational place where all that you have asked for is. Now, it's just vibrational at that point. But because it's vibrational, that is the template for the physical. And so, since it's vibrational, it's going to come into being. If you want to be a part of it, you can go find it and vibrate that vibration, and then you will be a part of the physical as it unfolds. I know I've just said a million things that a lot of people are like, wait a minute, you just lost me. I was with you and now my eyes are crossing. Oh well, tomorrow is another day, and I will take another run at it, and another run at it, and another run at it. Actually, these are cymatic patterns created by a digital cymatic device. You know, you put a different frequency in it, and it creates a different pattern. This one is more of how it was originally studied on a metal plate with a granular medium. You know, like sand or salt or something like that on top that can dance around individually. And as the frequency plays out on the plate, the little particles dance into coherent patterns. That's upper right and lower left, and upper left and lower right. You see those? Those are cymatic patterns in nature, illustrating to you that the vibrations are translating into the physical. That's the reason I do this one. And it doesn't take me very long to describe it, so I can do it pretty quickly. I like to emphasize the mathematics and the physics and stuff of this a little less, and emphasize the personal, you create your own reality and law of attraction aspect of it more, because that's more of what individuals are dealing with, their own negative emotions and their own trying to understand, you know, the meaning of their own configuration, their own biotechnologies. But the reason I have to bring up the math is because you gotta know that reality supports true reality, and mathematics and what could be technology all supports this understanding. And so I think it's important. Even though it's really the emotional stuff that people are going to really get, it's going to be the odd person that really understands this crap. This is screenshots that I captured from the video that I put a link to of the origin of mass and nature of gravity YouTube video describing the mathematics of the physical universe, how the Planck and the universal relate to one another, how the Planck and the cosmological, the quantum and the cosmological universes, how they relate to one another mathematically, and what it implies about you, about consciousness, about universal consciousness, about eternity, about your inner being, about the vibrational nature of everything, about the absolutely fresh, about how the Planck field can create anything. It implies so many things. And all of these things are implying that we can fix our problems on planet Earth. We just need to know who we are. Who am I? Who am I indeed? Which brings us full circle to the reason why I already did this one a long time ago. This is the one that illustrates the relationship between the Planck field within, in every proton, every black hole, HOLE, WHOLE, proton. How all of the Plancks relate to all of the protons in all of the universe. This is the Planck units and how you get them. This is how spin is baked into the cake. That one is something else. These are clipped from the paper, not from the last, let's see. This one, this one, this one, and this one all come from the paper. All the others came from the video describing the paper. They're all in my links. My links, which is in the description of this video. Please look at all of my links. There's my links list. This is the description of my video, which is why nobody can find the dang thing, because this is not a description of my video. This is a links list, a cosmic mixtape, if you will, that I offer to the world. Anyway, I am coming up on 2 hours. I must stop. I love you all. I wish you well. I may be posting an additional episode today with my previous guest. She had a little bit of a bumpy ride, and now I think we need to mine her experience for gold. Look for that later today, unless she cancels. In any case, until tomorrow or until later today, I wish you well. I bid you peace, and most of all, may the source be with you.